The topic that we'll be talking today is open graves, and it's from the book Living Spring, chapter 51. It is a very intense chapter, and I don't remember reading a chapter that is this heavy in terms of guidance. It's like this is an excerpt from Paul in the letter to the Romans. It's chapter 3, item 13. And Paul is basically saying their throats are open graves. So grave is something very heavy, very disgusting, I would say, because we all know that when we open a grave, we see things that we may not never forget. The decomposition of the body, the smells, all the bacteria that is basically decomposing the matter. And then suddenly we see Paul basically comparing the throats of people, comparing the throats of the Roman community as graves. So he was writing this letter some of the letters that Paul wrote, they were like consolation, stimulation. In this one, he was basically being very directive, saying, okay, you're doing it wrong. You're going through the wrong path, and you need to change. Because in a way, we know the saying that our words, it tells what our heart is full. So in this case, when we think that the throats are being compared to graves, we are saying that people have turned away through their spiritual path, and their words and thoughts are being negative, corrupted, hurting other people. And he's basically quoting a passage from the Old Testament, and which is in that case was in Dave said by David, basically talking about his enemies and condemning them, showing that they were demonstrating sinfulness and depravity, and they were going on the kind of the opposite direction that was supposed to be. So I also thought that was interesting that Paul was referring to the Old Testament. Usually when we look at the citations that Emmanuel chooses, they are mostly kind of connected just to the New Testament, which is basically either Jesus saying through the four apostles, or through Paul on his letters, right? So let's see what Emmanuel has to tell us in terms of these open graves. When talking about spirits who have strayed from light, Paul says that their throats are like open graves. So I know where light is, I know what is right, and I choose consciously to go to the other side. We can use this image to define many individuals when they abandon the true pathway of the gospel for the scabrous trails of egotism. And I thought that was interesting because it's not that we do not see wrongdoings that people are made, the choices that they do. People that are in our family, people who are in our community that may do wrong things that are hurting other people, things that we do not agree with. But what he's calling is calling our attention so we don't gossip. We do not badmouth people that are going in the wrong path. So they soon begin to reside in the dark empire of the self, forgetting the obligations that place us in the divine kingdom of universality. And their throats really do become veritable open graves. So he's saying that the moment that we start to criticize, to see the only the vices, the problems, the errors of other people, gossiping, bad mouthing other people, he's comparing our throat to an open grave. They emit that poisonous gall that flows within them like a vase of muck, like a vase of mud, and they begin to attune themselves exclusively to the problems that trouble their neighbors, friends, and loved ones. So I forgot suddenly to look at the mirror and look at my own wrongdoings and the things that I need to improve. But I keep looking at what Bruna is doing, what Andrea is doing, what Jace is doing, what Rosaura is doing, and only criticizing and focusing on defamating the others and turning people against each other. They see only their faults, weak points, unwholesome aspects of the people of goodwill who share in their evolutionary progress. And I thought that was very important to this specific paragraph because everybody who is here on this planet, we have qualities and we carry vices. Nobody's perfect. And we may choose to focus on the area that we want. We can look at someone and only describe all the wrongdoings that they do at the same time. We may stimulate, nurture their qualities or help. And I think that this also carry a lot of judgment, which is one of the points that Jesus showed us very well, that he never judged anyone. Quite the opposite. He was always helping others. So instead of condemning, criticizing, he was basically saying, wake up, stand up, open your eyes, kind of like inviting the person to make a better choice. So instead of being blind, open your eyes so you can see. Instead of being paralyzed, stand up and walk. So this is the invitation. They weave long commentaries in examining other people's ulcers instead of curing them. And when we think about social media today, the news, them, how many times we keep reading and digesting the same bad subject, and we forget how that subject may bring all the type of anxiety, unhappiness, discomfort to our own lives. They waste precious time on long, inhumane conversation, belittling other people's intentions. They overburden their imaginations with depressing images in the realms of suspicion and mental intemperance. All said, they complain about everything and everyone. And I bet that many of us can picture someone in our lives that is just like that. But the invitation here is not to look at the other person. The invitation here is to put the mirror in front of us. And instead of condemning that person who complains about everything and everyone all the time, what can we do? How can we help? How can we help change that pattern? They send out numbing emanations of ill will. You see how heavy it is? He's just saying really heavy, bad stuff. He's talking about the power of our words and how they can really macerate and hurt others, even if the other person doesn't even know, because he's not talking about Oh, that's only happens if you talk face to face to that person and heard that person directly. No, I may be talking to a third person about someone else, but he's saying that that poison is hurting me plus everyone else, the person who is listening to me, who I'm talking to, but also connecting with that person who is in wrong will. So spreading discouragement and distrust against the prosperity of sanctification, wherever they go. Wilting the flowers of hope and destroying the unripe fruits of charity. So our words can spoil charity, can destroy hope. Such learners, deeply unfortunate because of their conduct, do in fact resemble open graves. They exhale the decay of poisons of death. Therefore, when you leave the pathway for the slippery terrain of undue lamentations and accusations, reconsider your spiritual steps and remember that our throats should be devoted to the good, for only they can sublime for only they then can the sublime words of the Lord be expressed through them. As I was saying, this passage of Paul is referred from the Psalms of David, and that's the Psalm 5:9. For there is no truth in their mouth, their inmost self is destruction, their throat is an open grave, they flatter with their tongues. In this case, David was asking God to defend, to protect himself from his enemies, and he's describing their corruption in speech and in intentions, and the lack of integrity and the presence of malice and destructive power. So I can only imagine what was going through Paul's mind when he did that. Because we know that Paul was a very strong man, very bright, someone with a long list of academic um, honors. He knew the law very well. He knew the Old Testament very well. And he chose that to basically call out the attention of the other Christians that that he was sending the letter to. Why he was doing that? Because the throat, our words, is how we express ourselves. It's true that we can show our feelings, our emotions in other ways as well, with touch, with our eyes. When we were talking about social media, not too much, not too long ago, but even the tone of the voice that we use can completely change the message that we are giving. And that's why kind of sometimes writing an email or sending a text can be so dangerous. And every time that we have something important to say to each other, we need to have a conversation face to face, because language goes beyond what we say. Communication is pretty complex. But in this case, he was explaining that all these words, the way that they are treating each other, they were talking to each other, is spreading negativity, poison, instead of giving hope. So it's kind of going the opposite way to what Jesus was saying, that was kind of to help others, and it was just kind of making them more confused and sad. When we stop following the truth, humility, our intention to help others, our words and energy can be very harmful. And I would say that for many of us, we can testify that some things that someone told us maybe years ago, things that were good or bad, may be so ingrained in ourselves that we grew up as adults believing that. So if I heard so many times that as a kid, I was stupid, I may grow up as an adult believing that I can learn anything, even if that's not true. But the poison of the words of the other person can really create scars, deep scars on us. By spreading this sadness and killing the hope that we have inside ourselves. When we think about the open grave, as we were discussing before, and it may different things kind of come to our minds. Nevertheless, it's not an image that is comfortable. Nobody likes to go to a cemetery. It's not a soothing place, happy place. And that's because open grave really symbolize putrid matters, something ugly to the eyes, the foul odor, the death, really. So when he compares that to our words and saying that our words, when badly used, when badly chosen, when we criticize, belittle others, are poisonous like death, can shake up. Because how many of us cannot say that we say things without really thinking? And then we want many times to go back and bring those words back. And the words that we spoke in a moment that we were tired, stressed, irritated, frustrated. But even if the other person says, okay, that's okay, that poison was already part of my organism, was already part of my body. Even if the other person forgives me. So what do we have? The talent of speech. And when we think about this talent of speech, when we think about Genesis and that God basically spoke, for the different parts of the universe to happen. So this part of he speaking and creating and understanding that what we say is creation, what we say is energy, what we say has life, has power. And the other thing that I want to think about is that we have 2 ears and just 1 mouth. That's a message right there. That we should probably listen more and talk less and pay more attention to what we say and what we say. When somebody only focus on themselves, and today there's this thing about, oh, I need to take care of my health and my happiness, and I do what I want, and I am priority 1, 2, and 3. This is the ego talking. That's the selfishness talking. They forget the higher purpose in connection to others. And as we live in a society, and so the law of societies being one of the divine laws, we need to understand that this self-respect as the mutual respect is super important for our development. So living in our families, and we many times think that in our house, we can say whatever we want, and that's okay. We can say anything we want to our moms, and then she will forgive. No, we can't. Because one of the 10 commandments is to honor our parents. I can't. So as the moment that I speak and I start to bring harm or sadness, I need to get in a sense that I am getting trapped into that bitterness and selfishness per se. and I'm going to be alone. People who hurt other people get alone, be alone at some point. Emmanuel says, they emit all the poisonous gall that flows from within them like a vase of muck, and they begin to attune themselves exclusively to the problems that trouble their neighbors, friends, and loved ones. So I'm not looking at my, like the little cyst in my eyes. No, like the little log, the big log in my eyes, but I'm looking for the cysts in each one outside, looking for unwholesome aspects, even forgetting that that person have qualities too, because everyone has qualities. Everyone has something good. Nobody is completely bad. And when we look at psychology and spirituality together, we know that our words change our brain, our emotions. I would say we don't even need the words, our thoughts, because for our brains, every time that we think something, the brain doesn't know if it's real or not. For the brain is reality. So a negative speech will do a harm, a damage inside myself. So if I keep blaspheming or using strong words, bad words, negative words, first I'm taking the poison and then I'm hurting others. The other thing that I came to my mind when I was reading this is that us as parents, that the importance of what we say to our kids and how we say to our kids, the importance of our words in their own beliefs in them. Therefore, our responsibility to help them shape their own reality, saying that you can do this, you are courageous, you are determined, you are intelligent, you put the effort in doing the right things, you are making the right choices. Every time we say that, we stimulate the good side instead of pushing them down. And then as parents, that is so hard because when our kids are going to the wrong trail, we want to call their attention over and over and over, like almost desperation, because we don't want them to suffer. We are seeing that they are making the wrong choices. We want them to come back to the right place. But then we can become that person that complains about everything. I complain about my husband all the time for all the little things. He went to the supermarket, bought 10 items, but forgot one. And what do I say? Oh, you didn't bring the parsley. Emmanuel says that their commentaries in is examining other people's ulcers instead of curing them. They waste precious time on long, inhumane conversations, belittling other people's intentions. They overburden their imaginations with depressing images. In the realms of suspicion and mental intemperance, all said, they complain about everything and everyone. So this ill is spreading of discourage, of weaknesses, and talking badly instead of extending, offering our hand. And as we fill our minds with these negative thoughts, we lose our emotional balance. We lose peace. We lose our happiness. We become bitter. And then Emmanuel's continue. They exhale the decay and poisons of death. He couldn't be more clear about calling out the importance of our choices in words and analyzing when we hang out with people, what is the subject that we go, our choices. And then he continues. Therefore, when you leave the pathway from the slippery terrain of undue lamentations and accusations, reconsider your spiritual steps. So he's not looking at the other person. He's not saying that the other person doesn't have those kind of missteps. No, he's not saying that. He's talking about us. Trying to be in the judge chair. Reminding us that our throats should be devoted to the good. For those then can the sublime words of the Lord be expressed through them. If we are Christians, if we are followers of Jesus, so our words, what we say, how we speak, should be used as positive as possible for uplifting purposes. And only when we speak with this love and truth, we can share this divine message that will bring peace and light to others and ourselves. What was the message that Jesus sent to us or left us? Love God above all, love one another. We all children from the same Father. He was talking about equality. He was talking about being nice, play nice. We are not in a position to judge anyone. If we were better than them, we would not be from this planet. So he finishes with a practical reminder for us to watch our inner words. What do I tell myself? What are the thoughts that I use to myself when I'm looking at the mirror? What is the first thing that I tell myself in the morning when I wake up and look at the mirror? Oh, you're fat, you're ugly, you're smart, I love you. These choices of word matter. The other thing is, as we speak, let's speak with care. Let's speak thinking, how can I help the other person with these words, with these phrases? How can I make a difference? Pay attention to how our words feel as they come to other people. What's the energy? What's the emotions that my words are basically triggering in the other person? And only speak with purpose. We know that our words can carry love and truth and unity. And if I'm not speaking truth, if I'm not saying something that's going to be useful to other, if I am not doing something that is helping that person, it's better to be in silence. And that's what he says next. Avoid careless talk. Period. And for us to practice this language of life, light, thinking about phrases for ourselves and others as a source of peace and growth. And we see that a lot in meditation, with metta meditation, where I say, I am happy, I am healthy, I am safe. So kind of telling things that will soothe myself, that will calm myself, showing compassion. Why? Because compassion will be opening these channels of connections with the higher spirits. And will work like vitamins, like energy to support myself, my health. So let's wrap up tonight. Taking in consideration that our words guard sacred energy, that each phrase that we choose can uplift or corrode the landscape in the heart of others. And as we reconnect with this divine energy here tonight, let's reflect in our actions so we can use our voice to express kindness, renewal, hope, faith to everyone around us. And with that, I would like invite everyone for our passes. That's the moment that we can invite the divine light to flow within, bringing peace, love, joy, balance to our bodies. Dear Father, we are here tonight one more time, asking for your compassion, for your love, for your truth. All of us that so many times we get into the slippery slope of using our throats as open graves. Help us solidify our desires to our higher self, leaving behind the selfishness, the limited view that we have of the reality. Help us, dear Father, so we, with humility, we can shine light in our shadows, illuminating the areas that need more attention and more love and respect within ourselves. So this compassion can expand to all the other beings that surround us, that as we are, may make mistakes as we do. Help us, dear Father, so we can follow Jesus' steps, and instead of judging, may we extend our hand to help, offering our best, supporting one another, spreading hope, love, care. May we know more and more how to use our words as fathers, as mothers, as sisters, brothers, colleagues, in a way to help the ones that in many cases may be going through a tough moment, a moment of pain, distrust, maybe hopeless, maybe even thinking about suicide. May we spread our words as perfumes from flowers, so everyone who comes close to us can feel your presence through us, through our thoughts, through our words, through our actions, through our life. Bless our homes, bless our families, bless our intention to become better people, even though we fall so many times. We ask you, dear God, to bless this home, Chico Xavier, involving all the benefactors, the mentors that are here, in much light, in much love. With our deep sentiment of gratitude for everything they do for us. We ask you to take care of all the names that are in our books for prayers, to support everyone who have asked us for prayers, for the helpers, for those who come looking for help, so we can become more and more a stronger, bigger family as we should be. With that, we thank you, dear Father, for this night, for this life. And may we be together next week again. Thank you. So have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us. We will be publishing this lecture soon.